the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am not Phillips Baker, but I am honored to sub for him as we recognize milestones. Member birthdays: John Wilson, August the 11th, and Gary Hertel, August the 14th. Anniversaries: Connor and Taylor Buchanan, who will have been married 2 years, on the 13th. John and Dee Dee Tyler, on August the 14th, will celebrate 63 years. You have to get more than 40 years before you get a round of applause. Maybe 50. Larry and Sue Baird celebrate 49 years on the 15th, and George and Vicki Oliver celebrate 10 years on August 15th. Spouse birthdays, I have to say that carefully: Lucy Wharton on August the 16th, and club anniversaries: John Wilson, who is celebrating his birthday, also celebrates a club anniversary of 9 years on the 14th. And Steve Ann Wilson, August the 14th, 9 years also. They joined together. So, lift your glasses and say, Salud.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have any guests today. If you brought a guest, will you please stand and introduce your guest?
I'm Wayne Arrow. This is Corey Cheetah, my assistant chief.
I have Anthony Bollinger here again today. He works with Embry.
I have Cris Foster and Jack Daly. They're our speakers today.
Stand up, Bob. This is Bob Sullivan. He's a retired professor of chemistry from Southwestern University, and it's my pleasure to have him as a guest today.
This is Milton Shabel. He's my guest today, and his application is on the table. Thanks.
Okay, I think Derek has a couple of guests.
Lamar Marcellus here today.
Okay, do we have any visiting Rotarians?
I'm Steve Dooley, visiting from Columbia South Club in Columbia, Missouri.
Oh, good. Welcome. Anyone else? Thank you all. I'm really happy you're here. Thank you for joining us. This time, if George Morgan and Roger Chappell would come forward, I think they have something they brought back for the club.
George and I both had the opportunity to go to Guatemala last week, and last Wednesday I was at the Guatemala City chapter. Got lucky enough to meet their district governor, who was there for a visit and gave the State of the Union, so to speak. And then they also wanted me to express their gratitude to our club for giving them $1,000 towards the volcano relief.
As many of you know, I was in Guatemala also last week. I was down there on a mission trip, and then also did a little bit of work in trying to get some answers on a water project that we're looking at doing down there. Met with the Puerto Barrio Water Club, Puerto Barrio Rotary Club in Puerto Barrios in Guatemala, and they're very interested in partnering with us if we decide to move forward on our water project. So a lot of great things, learned a whole lot about it down there, so we'll share that in the future.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, that's wonderful. Up on the screen is just a reminder of some of the trainings that are coming up. You can go to the district website and sign up for these. They're free. They're usually really, really good, so I encourage you to go if you have the time. And now I'd like to invite one of fellow Rotarian up to do a Rotary Minute for us.
I was going through some of my mom's things, and she was born in 1919, so a lot of her stuff is really old. And I found a book called Gullible's Travels by Ring Lardner. Most people here will not have heard of him. I think he was a humorist and writing in the 20s and the 30s. And I just wanted to read a little bit from the preface. It mentions Rotary briefly. It may be funny to you or it may not. Gullible's Travels, the story from which this book takes its name, has to do with a trip to Palm Beach and was written in 1916. Readers who have never been to Palm Beach and who contemplate going there are warned not to base their budget on figures quoted in the story. In those days, you could get a double room with bath at one of the two big hotels for a niggling $17 a day. That sum is now just a fair diurnal tip for the house detective. Everything has doubled or trebled in price in the last 10 years, and still the influx of eager customers increases. Newspapers continue from habit to speak of the place as exclusive. But a person with money who can't crash in there these days would be blackballed from the Rotary Club. Thank you.
That's interesting. Thank you, Joanne. I really appreciate that. Okay, David, do you have anything for membership this week?
We have 3 applications on the table.
Okay.
One is new and one is
Do you want to come? I don't know if they can hear you.
okay.
I just wanted to say we have 3 applications on the table this week. One, Kevin Resking, this is his last time, and they've all been approved. And then this is the first time for the other 2. So please look at them and move along. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And so at this time, I'd like to invite Gary Hertel to come up and give his classification talk and introduce our speaker.
The email said short classification talk, so I'll make it really short. I was born and raised in South Austin. I graduated from Crockett High School. Lived 15 years in Dripping Springs. Moved to Georgetown about 16 years ago. I've been married to Cece, my wife, for 26 years. We have one daughter, Elizabeth. She's a senior at Texas Tech. And I like to fish and watch college basketball and football. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration from LeTourneau University. A lot of blank faces. You want to look that up on the internet. we play Southwestern sometimes in tennis. I've worked in the solid waste and recycling business my entire career. My father owned a business, and so I kind of grew up there doing it, and he sold it out. And I worked for a large public company, BFI, for 6 years after that, and then I started my own business, and I had that for 8 years, and I sold it to a startup company that was consolidating a lot of small companies at the time, and they're now the 3rd largest in the nation. For the past 19 years, I've worked for Texas Disposal Systems in various capacities, and in the past 12 years, I've been the operations manager for the TDS operations in Williamson and Bell So So that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last 58 years. And so our guest today is Jack Daly and Cris from the city of Georgetown. Working with the city, I have the opportunity to meet a lot of really great people, and these are two of them. They're some of the sharpest guys you'll find in city government. And so today, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jack to come up and give us a presentation about a very innovative ideal that they've come with for the city. So, Jack Daly.
Georgetown, Texas is one of the largest cities in the U.S. to be powered with 100% renewable energy. We're now purchasing wind power from a wind farm 500 miles away near Amarillo, while our solar power is produced 350 miles away in West Texas. These two sources of clean energy provide the city with long-term cost stability. However, our prediction is that by 2021, the summer peak power demand will outpace our supply, which means we'll have to find additional power to meet our shortfall. Our solar and wind energy contracts are at fixed prices for the next 20 to 25 years. That's good, but we could still see fluctuations in transmission costs due to the distance from where our power is produced. Is there a way to reduce the transmission costs? That's exactly what we're looking into. Currently, our proposal is to install rooftop solar panels on homes and businesses in our city and link them to large batteries that store the power locally. This means we wouldn't be fully reliant on power produced hundreds of miles away. We'd be producing power right here in Georgetown on residential and commercial rooftops. We're calling this idea a virtual power plant, and through a $100,000 grant from the Bloomberg Foundation, we're exploring the feasibility of the virtual power plant and developing a prototype that offers residents an economic incentive. The viability of such a power plant is already being tested at a city facility called the West Side Service Center. Our long-term vision for the project is an electric grid that improves service, reduces the impact of outages, provides protection against emergency weather and national security events, and still keeps costs steady. For more about the project, visit gus.georgetown.org.
All right, so that was the shortest way we could talk about this kind of complicated idea. So the city, I do have a PowerPoint that goes with this, but I'll speak to it real quickly here. The city, back in the fall, applied to Bloomberg Philanthropies for a grant to test out an innovative idea. And so the mayor talked about the idea of the virtual power plant, but what's been really interesting and what I wanted to talk to you guys about is kind of the process that we've been through to test this idea. So over 500 cities expressed interest in this mayor's challenge. 320 applications were submitted and only 35 finalists. And Georgetown is, I think when we applied we were the smallest, but we're growing so fast, I think we're the second smallest now. The second smallest city, and we're competing against the likes of Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. So really big cities with really big budgets. Our joke is, for the city of Austin, $5 million is a rounding error. For Georgetown, if you gave us $5 million, we could probably change the world. That's what we're going with here. What Bloomberg has put us through since the fall is this test and learn approach. Cities traditionally are really good about going off in our little corner and fully baking an idea and going, okay, this is the best thing, we're ready to present it to the public, and then we present it and everyone goes, wow, that's awful, I hate it, right? So what Bloomberg has challenged us to do is say, okay, take the inklings of an idea, the beginnings of an idea, and get it out in the public early and often, and then actually listen to what your community members say about the idea and change it, right? What a novel idea. We've done that. We've done a series of tests and focus groups, and I'm going to run through kind of what we learned this spring and summer. So we've done 10 focus groups. They've ranged in size and in scale and kind of level of professionalism. But we've directly contacted and worked with over 700 people. So the first set of focus groups were just groups like this. We met with the Friends of the Library, we met with the Sun City Water Ambassadors, we met with the Chamber, and we just collected feedback on some initial ideas, what people liked, what they didn't like about the virtual power plant, and then we changed it over time. Our last 3 focus groups were actually professionally administered and run by Texas State University, because there is an art and a finesse to running a good focus group, and we've learned a lot about how we talk about and how we present this virtual power plant idea is very important to community buy-in, and that's been one of our most valuable lessons. So what have we learned? We started this project out, this virtual power plant is basically, we want to lease people's rooftops and put solar panels on there. In our first focus group, however, we were visiting with them, and in passing we mentioned that, oh yeah, to make the solar panels work, there are going to be batteries, and if the power goes out, the batteries will actually, as a kind of side benefit, give you backup power. You know, you will have kind of uninterruptible power. And a couple people in the room raised their hand and go, wait a second, you're telling me if I lease you my rooftop and you put a battery by my property, I'll have backup power? That's really interesting. And we're like, oh, I guess it is interesting. We didn't think about it. So we have totally pivoted kind of our sales pitch and how we talk about it from a move to lease rooftops for solar to a opportunity to place a whole bunch of batteries out in the community and kind of provide backup power during outages or emergencies, and that's been something that has proved really interesting to the community and helped actually with our financial model, because we're not having to literally pay people for the service. The ancillary benefits are enough to get people to be involved. Some other things that we found that were interesting, we were curious as to whether or not people would trust the city to run a program like this, and overwhelmingly people did say, yes, I would rather have the city do this work than a third party. People would rather have the city own and operate these solar panels and batteries out in the community as opposed to individuals or third party owning and operating them. We went round and round on how best to compensate people for participating. So we started out with a cash payment, and people were saying, well, I don't know if, you know, there's a lot of overhead and writing checks to people every month, and there are some tax implications. So then we went to, well, what if we escrowed your payments into an account? Whoa, all right. What if we escrowed your payments into an account and then reserved those dollars to, replace your roof at a certain point down the line? And people were like, well, I'd really rather have my money now. So what we settled on is a bill credit. So just a very simple bill credit to entice people to participate. And then originally we talked about having a bunch of small batteries in people's garages. And we were the only ones that thought that was a good idea. Everyone really didn't like that. So what we evolved to is a large battery, bigger than a refrigerator, that would sit on the side of someone's home. And I have some pictures of what that will look like here in a little bit. But the large battery allows us to power multiple homes. So you can power up to 5 homes off of one battery, as opposed to putting a whole bunch of small batteries in everybody's home. So yeah, it's been a lot of learning, and as you can see, we've really changed how we talk about and how we present this program to the public. Oh gosh, we go back one, Cris. So just a little bit about the science behind this. So the city does a lot of mapping, and we fly planes over the city, and one of the things that these planes can do is test radiation potential of homes. So the plane flies over and they can tell the pitch of your roof and how much tree cover you have. So we have a map of our entire electric service territory that shows, here are the homes or rooftops that would be really great to participate in this program. Here are the homes or rooftops that are, maybe not oriented as well, or have too much shade. So we do have kind of objective science-based measures on where we would place solar panels. So it's a very objective process on how these assets would get pushed out into the community. And this map is actually available on the city's website, so you can go in, and if you're a Georgetown Electric customer, you can punch in your address and see how good your rooftop is for solar panels. This is a rendering. We work with Gary Wong of Wong Architects to kind of show what these batteries would look like. So if you saw one of these batteries, they're about 7 feet tall, 5 feet wide, 4 feet deep, or thereabouts. So they're large. But they could fit on about the same pad as an AC unit on your house. So in working with the public and attendees to our focus groups, we said, this is a big battery. Are you really comfortable with something like this next to your home or in your yard? And people were, knowing that this battery could help provide backup power for not only them, but their neighbors. People said that they were interested in it. So you can kind of see this is about the size of a battery, and this is kind of a home maybe in the Old Town neighborhood, so you can get an idea of the context. And then we did another round of drawing. So this is more like a Sun City type development with low fences in the back, and you can see bigger yards. But you can see, much like transformers or power poles or other utility infrastructure, it kind of fades into the background, and we're thinking that people are comfortable with the idea of these larger batteries so long as they're outside their home. And then we've been getting the same questions, so we developed these FAQs. I think it's valuable just to run through this because I know you probably have a lot of questions, and then I'm happy to answer any questions with this group or stay afterwards. But just running through this really quickly. So who would own the panels and the batteries? The city would own the panels and the batteries, and we would maintain those. How does the city contract for the right to place batteries on people's rooftops? We would actually use a tool that's available to the city for a lot of other things. We would use easements to place the batteries on rooftop, or place the panels on rooftops and the batteries on people's yards so the city could have access to them. Where does the power go? This is really interesting, and I know people have varying degrees of knowledge about how electric works. I know before I started here, I really didn't know anything about electric distribution or generation, but the power that would be produced in this program would go to the community. It doesn't go, so if you have solar panels on your rooftop in this community, it goes broadly to the whole electric grid. It doesn't just stay with your home. So there's kind of a community benefit to this whole thing that's been interesting to people. Okay, so if the city's going to place something on your roof, who's going to maintain your roof? So traditional roof maintenance and repair is still the responsibility of the homeowner. Of course, if the city would be responsible for any damage or any issues resulting from installing the panels, the city would maintain the panels and the batteries. And the city would insure the panels and the batteries. And this is our last one. So how's the roof insured? The customers still have to carry their own homeowner's insurance on the roof. And then if you need to repair your roof, in the easement there would be performance terms. So when you called the city, we would have to come out and take the panels and the racking off your roof in a certain amount of time. So you could do your roof maintenance, and then we would reinstall. So I think that's it on the presentation. Next steps for us, we have a final application that's due August 20th, and then we'll find out if we're a winner sometime in October. So we have the opportunity to win either 4 $1 million prizes or 1 $5 million prizes. So we're excited. Bloomberg has shown a lot of interest in what we're studying here, and we've gotten a lot of notoriety already about our move to renewable energy. But this is just another example of how the city of Georgetown is being pretty innovative, especially with its electric utility. And we've really appreciated the community support. And again, if you guys have any questions, happy to answer those. But just the the big takeaway, I think, for us is this iterative approach that involves the community from the very beginning has proven to be extremely successful and something we're definitely going to carry forward in other idea or product developments in the future. So, hope it didn't go too fast. Really appreciate you all. I've never been to a Rotary meeting before, so this was good, and thank you very much. I have all the time you guys need, so just let me know.
Hi, can you tell me the cost of a kilowatt hour over the long term produced by the solar panels?
I'm looking, so I brought Cris because he's like our scientist. I'm pretty sure that the cost we're shooting for is $1.70 per kilowatt installed.
Right, so the average cost per kilowatt hour over the life of the assets is expected to be less than 6 cents a kilowatt hour. It's already at 5.8 for the first 20 years, and then every asset that lives beyond 20 years produces energy at a marginal cost of zero.
As far as the density of homes that would need panels and batteries, say per 100 households, what's your estimation on that?
Yeah, so we did a lot of work on, we were calling it market penetration. We need about 20% of homes to host a battery, so 1 in 5 homes to host a battery, and then we need about 50%, at full rollout, full implementation, we need about 50% of the rooftops to participate.
I was curious about the easement aspect of, is that a permanent easement for perpetuity, or how is that affected later if the homeowner sells his property and then the subsequent homeowner does not want the easement? Can that be revoked?
Yeah, so the easement, it's going to be structured over the life of the asset. So we will have 20-year debt on these solar panels and batteries, so the easement would last for 20 years, and it would be with the property. I know that it's challenging and unique for people, especially when they're talking about selling their homes. Our hope is that people will see it as a positive and say, look, these assets come with the property. But as owners change, we would just have to work with individuals if they wanted to get the easement removed from their property.
I have 2 questions. First, does this preclude us from doing our own solar panels? And second, what's the cost comparison between the green energy and buying it from the natural gas producers?
Yeah, 2 good questions. So the first, no. So today, you could go out and put solar panels on your home, and the city does what's called net metering. So any energy you use that's beyond what you use in your home, you can push back into the grid, and we'll compensate you for that. My understanding, and again, I brought Cris to confirm, is our renewable contracts are cost competitive with today's natural gas prices. And what's great about them, what the sell was for council, is they are fixed rates for 20 and 25 years. So we've mitigated fluctuations in traditional power sources by going to these fixed rate long-term contracts.
Do you have an estimate of what kind of impact this would have on the monthly energy bill?
So our hope is to do this within existing electric rates. So you would not see a reduction in rates necessarily, but you wouldn't see an increase in rates either. It's a way for us to, on the utility side, so the mayor was talking about, like in 2021, because of growth, we'll need to go out on the market regardless for more energy. So this is a way for us to incrementally build energy production for our growth, as opposed to having to go buy large-scale production in another solar or wind farm project.
Recently in the news, and as well as a video I saw on the news yesterday, computer and cell phone batteries have caught fire. And I'm wondering what's the safety of the battery, or what type of precautions would, especially one as large as you described.
Yeah, so my understanding, again, not an expert on batteries, but the larger batteries are actually more safe. What causes those cell phone or laptop batteries to get really hot and explode is because they're compacting these batteries so small. So because these batteries are larger, we're not the battery manufacturers aren't experiencing the same issues on these large-scale commercial-grade batteries.
Is this going to be a flat fee for having the panels on somebody's house? Are they going to get a flat fee per month, or is it going to fluctuate with how much production of energy happens on their home that month?
It's a mix of those. It will fluctuate based on the number of panels you host. So it will be a flat fee based on array size, if that makes sense. So it's not based on your production. It's based on, we're basically leasing space from you. So it's how much space we lease will determine the rate.
Hi, Jack.
Chief.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I really appreciate you being here to protect.
Are you nervous that I have the microphone?
No.
You should be.
No. We have the same boss.
Yes, we do. What could the average homeowner expect as a credit monthly participating in the program?
So,
I think that's $1 million question.
Yeah, no, so the average credit is, it's $20 is what we've said for an average home, would be a $20 bill credit. Which, in working with focus groups, for some people, $20 means something that's, yeah, heck yeah, I could use an extra $20 a month. Some people, $20 doesn't really move the needle, but the $20 in tandem with the possibility for backup power, in tandem with this understanding that there's a broader community benefit for us, producing and storing power locally, in our testing has shown that we get enough market penetration for this program to work.
So is there any possibility of expanding it beyond the city limits to the ETJ?
So what's great, the great thing or the curse about the electric market in Texas is there are very clear, defined lines that we can play in. So the city of Georgetown Electric absolutely has to stay within our current electric boundaries for any dollars we use.
Okay, and if someone owns, say, 5-10 acres that they weren't utilizing, could you put a solar array on their property and have them actually become a small plant with you and get money off of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's been interesting, kind of what we have not talked about, is for this project or this kind of virtual power plant, the residential component, going out and leasing rooftops from individuals, is the hardest thing to execute on. If we were working with GISD or Southwestern or large commercial customers, this gets much easier. So we wanted to prove to Bloomberg that we can make the hardest business case work, because we think, large-scale installations will be an easier sell, frankly. And then, of course, kind of greenfield development would be a great opportunity to explore it also.
One of the factors, or a couple of factors that the public has been watching for a generation or more, is the increase in efficiency for batteries and electric solar panels, and probably wind too, for that matter. If you're talking about locking in a constant cost for 20 years, is that not a negative factor if the cost of producing it goes down very significantly?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. So what's great about this program is, so our financial and technical analysis says it breaks even today with today's technology. So absolutely, 3 to 5 years from now, the model gets even better, because we expect the cost and efficiencies of batteries and solar panels to only improve. What is also good about this program is it's incremental. So we would only place enough solar panels and batteries out in the community to cover 1 year's growth. And then as technology improves and the next year we do another round of installations, we would use better and new technology. So we would still have old assets on the ground, but we would not buy everything we needed at once to push out. This is a 15 to 20 year project to get fully implemented across the city.
Since the electricity that's generated by the solar panels goes back into your grid, what's the advantage of having individual batteries as versus having a centralized battery location?
That's a good question. So the kind of individual, so having batteries kind of serving a cluster of homes allows us to offer that backup power during an outage, which is something, pardon?
If you had a centralized battery, then you'd have backup power anyway.
If there was a large citywide outage, absolutely, but having them distributed throughout the community, so if there's a break in the line in one neighborhood, it won't affect the neighborhood right next to it necessarily.
That happens very seldom.
Yes. Did I answer your question? Sorry. Okay.
So you will not be contacting schools, churches, and institutions, businesses until after you get the grant? And if you do get the grant, won't the increase in square footage, if you include those, help quite a bit?
Yes, absolutely. So if, regardless of if we get the grant or not, this is something we're piloting on a city facility right now. And if we did get the grant, we think we can serve, because of just the cost of this project, the grant would allow us to do a residential pilot. And if we were able to prove that out, then absolutely we would roll it out to larger electric customers in the community.
Two questions. Considering the weather, hail, wind, that kind of thing, what's the lifespan of the panels? And the other question, what are their batteries expected to do? What can they power? How long? That kind of thing.
Yeah, two good questions. So the solar panels, the panels that we would be putting out there are, we call them utility grade panels. It's the same panels that they use in big utility scale solar farms in West Texas, and they have a 75-year warranty. So they have a better warranty than your roof today, and they actually withstand hail and wind better than your roof today. So we've been talking to some insurance underwriters, and we've been trying to make the case that actually these panels are good to put on people's roofs because they protect some of the roof from storms. I don't know that we've convinced them of that yet, but we're still working on it. Your other question was the batteries. So how we've scoped the batteries is, to get a little technical, everybody knows what a transformer is. It's the big can that hangs from a power pole, or it's the green box that's in your yard. That transformer serves a cluster of 4 to 8 homes. So our hope is that one battery will serve that transformer cluster for, so let's say in August, fully loaded, AC's going on everybody for 2 hours of backup power. If it's in the fall and people aren't needing to run their ACs, it can run for much longer. And if we were in a kind of natural disaster where we could shed the load, you could run, very basic appliances and lights for a really long time. I think upwards of a week.
What's your estimated cost per unit, including the battery?
I think fully loaded with a battery and panels, as Cris, is $60,000. So, Cris Foster, he's our manager of resource planning and integration. He buys the city's electricity and then sells the city's electricity, and then he does a lot of other technical smart stuff.
That makes me the middleman. Just saying. Yeah, so the solar bids that we've gotten in preliminary quote estimates are full turnkey installs at between $1.05 and $1.70 a watt, which is typically a third to half of what a normal residential install would be. The battery units themselves, each battery unit is about $40,000, takes about $20,000 in civil work, and then we have minor costs associated with the overhead of putting in easements between $3 to $6 grand per property. So total install on a battery is going to end up being around $70,000 plus or minus a couple.
Which, just to put that in context, every year the city spends almost $50 million for electricity, right? So the numbers we're talking about, the wind farm and the solar farm out in West Texas cost over $1 billion to install. So when we're talking about $5 million to you and me, that's a huge amount of money for our electric utility and for the broader generation of electricity. It only goes a small way, but it's a way to test this idea to prove it over the long run.
Are there any health risks at all with having the battery by your house?
Not that I've heard of. Again, not an expert, Cris.
So one of the advantages of using a utility scale battery is that the containers are designed to reflect the magnetic resonant frequency inside the container. So you can literally stand outside a millimeter away and not have an effect, and then the moment you put your phone inside with an inductive charger, you'll start feeling electricity move. So it's, as long as you are not physically inside the battery container itself, you should have no impact. Just saying.
Don't crawl on the battery. All right, I think we're getting the cue to wrap up here. Cris and I will be happy to hang out afterwards, and feel free, I have cards if you want to email me or call and ask any questions. Thank you all very much.
Sign a book, and then we give it to Pearl Elementary. Perfect. So if you two would do that for me and leave it with Carol as you leave, that would be great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Okay. That was really an interesting program. Thank you, Gary, for bringing that to us. I want to thank Henry also for filming the meeting again. If anybody is a little nervous about being on film, let us know, because periodically Henry is here and does this for us. Then he puts it on YouTube, and I think we can use it for makeups and a variety of things, so we appreciate that. Thank you. Jeannie, you want something really, really quick?
Really quick. Did you know that I was involved with helping a hero to give a new home to a wounded veteran? That happened this morning. I wanted to tell you that it was just a magnificent program, and I want to thank Denise White, Michael Cox, David Kellerman, and all of you who participated last night at the event with Lee Greenwood, and this morning to go and greet this family and welcome them to Georgetown. It was a phenomenal event. Everybody who was involved and who came up this morning or last night, please raise your hand. That is service above self, and we thank you. Chief, you were there. Raise your hand. It was a fabulous thing. Senator Cruz, Congressman Carter, 2 state representatives, our mayor, and many other elected officials from our county were there. It was a magnificent morning. Thank you all for your help.
Thank you, guys. That's awesome. And I understand it'll be on Facebook for those of us that couldn't make it, so we'll get to see some of it. It'll be on the news tonight. Oh, great. Okay, wonderful. Next week, we're going to start the meeting a couple of minutes early, probably about 10 after. We have a lot going on next week, a lot of things happening with the kickoff of the Field of Honor and Patriot Ball. And we have a check presentation by the Hewlett family, so that's going to be exciting to see as well. So if you could get here a little early and go through the line early, that would be wonderful. Is there anything else for the good of Rotary? Any other announcements? Strategic Planning Committee and Board, we're having our retreat this afternoon at 1:30, so don't forget to join me there. So if you would join me, please, in the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, the truth. Second, the fair concern. Third, build goodwill and better friendships. And fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you all so much.